We're now live, Chairman.
Sorry, Chairman, because I'd been muted. I've now unmuted myself. So welcome everybody if you're watching, and welcome to the committee, Fair Oak and Horton Heath Parish Council Finance Committee. Do we have any members of the public who've asked us any questions, Mel?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. Muting is going to be an issue this morning, I can tell. And has anybody asked any questions by email to us, Mel?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. Then have we got any apologies for this morning's meeting?
Yes, Chairman. Councillor Tennant.
Thank you. So the minutes then of the 12th of January, are they an accurate record of what we said? Thank you. Proposed by Councillor Marsh, seconded by Councillor Speary. All in favour, and we are. Thank you. Any declarations of interest this morning? No,
none, Chairman.
Everyone's shaking their heads, so that's good. So let's move on then to the next item of our agenda, which is the Finance Monitoring Report, which is between pages 5 and 22. Joe, are you going to talk about this, or is it Mel this morning?
I would ask Joe as the Finance Officer to introduce this, Chairman.
Thank you. Joe, over to you, please.
Yeah. Oh, can everyone hear me? I'm off mute.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, report B really is giving us a bit of a background. So just talking about where we are with the budget, and basically with COVID, the impact that it's had, most notably on the income. So the first table basically goes through our income stream. On the left-hand side, there's a series of income nominals, the budget that we had and the year to date, and then where we're at now. And we are definitely, we've been hit very much with our hall hire. We have had income come in from Eastleigh Borough Council for the play area at Woodlands. And that does inflate our other income figure, which makes us look a bit more inflated with income than we really are. It really is, we can't really underestimate how much we have been hit with the variances. Table 2 shows in more detail where we've been hit with our income figures in more detail to each of the centres.
Any comments for Joe or questions about that little bit first, because we really are down on our income tremendously, aren't we? But only to be expected, and it can, we hope now, only start to get better.
Councillor Coldry raised his hand, Chairman, and Councillor Speary.
Thank you, Councillor Coldry.
With £60,000 down on higher income, and obviously we would prefer not to be, but it is what we have reserves for. It is, I think, in the longer term, I'm confident that in the longer term this will recover as we get back to normal. And so I'm not terribly concerned about a one-off loss of 60,000, especially as we actually got a contribution from Eastleigh Borough Council, which is the only council that supported its parishes in the whole of Hampshire, of very much, or almost over half of that, just as a one-off payment, which they shared from. So we're not actually as badly off as many, and I think we can stand this.
Absolutely. Councillor Speary.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just querying the estimated income for next year's budget on the 3.4 paragraph for the 3 halls. Now that looks like a modest reduction to me. Are we really confident that we can make that sort of level? I notice there's no reduction at all for income for the parish hall, which maybe that's an exception, but I'm just concerned that the modest reduction that we're estimating, is that going to be realistic? Thank you.
Joe.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Philip. It's a tricky one. We are trying to be optimistic, but also realistic at the same time. We have reduced our budget slightly. It's a really tricky one. I think time will tell with this, but we are really hoping that the people that we currently have that hire out our halls, you know, hopefully with the vaccine and things slowly getting back to normal, with the summer months, we can really, you know, make a difference, really.
Thank you. Yes, we hope so. Like you say, I think it's a waiting game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It can't be any worse than it has been, and hopefully confidence will return and people will start to rehire. Nick.
Sorry, muting again. I was just crossing my fingers as you said it can't be any worse than it has been. But apart from that,
Yeah.
I do hope you're right, and I actually do think it will get better.
Yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope so. Any more comments on that one? So, Joe, the rest of the report then, with our end of year budget totals, etc. Anything else you want to say?
Not anything specific. Expenditure, so from paragraph 3.5 downwards, just it really explains the main variances where we are with expenditure. There are some codes that we are definitely overspent on, things like legal and professional fees, but there are codes that we are underspent on. Just for example, things like staff training, but there are certain codes that, you know, this report was done as at the end of February. We've still got March to go. March is a busy month in terms of spending for us anyway. So obviously with another month to go, that figure could look very different. But looking at the grand total of it, I think we will fall well within our budget. So that's something really positive. Despite the negative impact of COVID, I think we are sitting quite nicely with our budget.
Indeed, thank you. Any more points for Joe, please? Michelle.
Sorry, Joe, you mentioned, but in item 3.5 in that table, it did say that there was quite a significant variance in the legal and professional fees, which you've actually already mentioned. Can I ask what that was for?
Yeah, so we've had a few things. So one of the things is the Scout lease. We've had lots of negotiations and discussions with our solicitors regarding that. And now there's one more thing, isn't there? But I can't think off the top of my head what that was.
Yeah, the other two issues that have caused us to spend money is obviously the library, the legal advice for the freehold transfer of the library, and obviously the license to occupy for the library. We've also been using a public open space consultant to advise us on Crown Hill Green and the issues there, as well as the issues on the public open space at Pembers Hill. Which in my mind is money well spent, because he's obviously assisted us in a negotiation process with the borough and the developer.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, that's very helpful.
Thanks, Joe, for all your hard work on that. So I'm going to recommend then that this committee notes that latest budget position as at the 28th of February, as that's in the agenda. Do I need to vote on that, Mel?
Members could just agree that en masse if they're happy to do that.
Yes.
And it looks like they are.
Then you agree? Yes, you are. We are all agreeing on that. Lovely, thank you. Right, let's have a look then at our capital reserves, which is page 23 of the report. So Joe, I guess that's you again.
Yeah. Oh, bear with me, I'll just scroll down. Trying to find it on my report here. Capital reserves. Right. Yes. So what I've detailed here is each of the capital accounts on the left, what the opening balance was, what the transfer was, and our closing balance. So as a total, we've got just over 236,000 in our capital reserves. I think the one thing we need to bear in mind is we have only a time limit to spend these monies on these certain projects. So I think we just need to be aware of how much we've got left. And Mel's put here at the end dates that is basically when we need to have these monies spent by. So we just need to keep in mind, the amounts that we have.
Anyone want to say anything about those reserves? You're right, they do look enormous when you look at them, but they are all, of course, earmarked for projects, some of which we've saved for over the years, which is good, like the tennis courts. Nick, what would you like to say? You're on mute again, Nick.
Lovely. I think I have now. I had a question about the parish office compound, because I didn't understand the comments. Net transfer is shown, which has been spent, which is fine, but it's £17,000 is noted as the payment, and it's 9,200 as the transfer. So I didn't quite understand that. And then there's a comment about leaves £46,000, but as far as I can see, the balance is £24,000. So I'm really totally confused about that entry.
Joe, are you able to explain that, or is it a Mel job, or both of you?
I can answer that, Chairman. That is me not updating my table properly. So you are correct. So thanks for picking me up on that, Councillor Coldry. I'll have that amended for members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything anyone else wants to say about our capital reserves? All right, let's move on then to the next item, which is our investment strategy. Joe, is this you?
I can take this one, Chairman. This is an annual review of our finance and investment strategy. If I'm completely honest, we haven't actually made any significant changes other than update the finances within paragraphs 5.2. Yeah, no significant changes. It's just for us to review on an annual basis.
Have you any? You have no recommendations for us other than just to adopt this as it is?
Yes, Chairman.
Sadly, there are so few opportunities for any sort of sensible investment with a return at the moment, aren't there? Joe, do you want to add anything to that? Okay, councillors, anything we'd like to say on that strategy? No, we all seem to be happy with that. Got lots of people shaking their heads. Oh, and nodding, saying yes, they are happy. All right, then. I'm just scrolling back to my agenda. There's still such a lot of scrolling to do in this meeting, isn't there?
Are members happy to adopt that strategy en masse then, Chairman? They are, great. Thank you.
Yes, that's unanimous. Thank you. So item 6 then, our internal audit action plan, which is pages 27 to 28. Now this is comments. Yes, thank you. This is papery, and it's comments that have been made by our auditor, who is actually in the office today, looking at our books. And these are the issues, the recommended action that she suggested, and then the action that we've done so far. So Mel, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Every year we have 2, sometimes 3 internal audits with our internal auditor. She submits a report after every audit. Myself and the finance officer go through that report, and we put the actions identified in an action plan. And relatively quickly, because obviously we don't like to leave these things hanging over our heads, we try and address the issues identified. The action plan is just for members to see that we are actually addressing the issues identified by the internal auditor. So it's just for transparency and also, I can say this because the auditor is in the office today doing our internal audit. It's to show the auditor clearly that we're listening to her and taking on board her comments. So it's just for members to note, Chairman, unless there are any questions from members.
I have to say that although there's a number of them, they're all very minor things that are just making our books better and easier to understand. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. I think my biggest concern in those recommendations is the number of meetings that are happening in Chorus. And I was quite surprised to read that, because I would have imagined that any meeting that wasn't Chorus it should have been stopped and rescheduled. So is that what's going to happen in future?
We've had a real issue with only one particular type of meeting, and that was planning. And we've addressed that by now circulating planning to all council members for consideration. And then if there are any major applications, such as one Horton or other ones that we had, that one in Knoll Lane, for example, they now come to full council. So we've overcome that problem by doing that. We're not quite sure why planning has been such a difficult committee. I think it was originally every fortnight and was quite a big demand on people, with a lot of paperwork to look at, a lot of plans to consider. And I think that could have been one of the issues. And then some weeks we would have lots and lots of planning applications and some weeks none. So sometimes the meeting was cancelled and people couldn't kind of get into the rhythm of it. And I think that was one of its issues. So hopefully we've managed to address that this time by doing this differently. And of course, some of the other meetings that we've had, and there have been very few that have been in Quorum, we've now overcome by using Zoom and not using Teams, because more people can get onto them more easily. So hopefully that isn't going to be an issue going forward. But, you know, everyone is volunteers, things crop up, people can't attend for various reasons. Michelle.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just step in and just clarify a point for Councillor Marsh? Where we were in Quorum at planning meetings, and this was last committee year, not this committee year, we're at the end of this committee year now, we weren't holding meetings in Quorum. We did not do that. We would actually announce that we were in Quorum, and members would discuss planning applications informally, and then the deputy clerk would then reorganise the planning meeting soon after, and those planning applications that they couldn't agree because they weren't in a Quorum meeting would then pass back to a Quorum meeting. So I just want to make that clear that we weren't.
That's incredibly helpful.
Ultra far, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, yeah.
But can I just ask the Chairman, one of the things that I did notice, meetings clearly are being better attended now that we're using Zoom, so that's a way forward. Has any consideration been given to how we plan to operate moving forward longer term? Because certainly virtual meetings is far more, it's going far better than anyone would have ever predicted. And I'm assuming that your attendance has gone up because people are more easily able to attend a virtual meeting than a live meeting. Is it? That's
yeah, that is absolutely right, Michelle. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation with Mel about this only last week, and how we should move this going forward. And we have decided that the advice is still to work from home if you can, and social distancing will continue for a very long time. So we have decided, pending the council's approval, that all our meetings will continue online until at least September. I can see no point in us going back to face-to-face meetings just for the month of July. And my reasons for that are, as you've said, that we are getting better attendance. It's much easier for people to attend. Lover as I am of short meetings, these are even shorter when we're online, which is always a good thing, because people don't make good decisions when meetings go on and on and on and they're very late in the evening. And we can hold them at different times. We're not hauling our staff in several times a month to have meetings in the evening. And also, if you look at the demographic of our parish council, we have quite a few older members who still remain at risk, even though they have been vaccinated. And it would seem senseless to bring those people back into a meeting before September. So I would hope to put something before a monthly meeting of the parish, perhaps in April or May, to firm up how we're going to carry on forwards from this. But certainly until September, we're going to be continuing like this. Mel.
Yes, Chairman, I just wanted to say that we will need to check the relevant legislation on that, and I will do that. If it's the case that we have to hold face-to-face meetings again, which I'm sure we will do, we'll still continue, as Helen has indicated, with live streaming our meetings, so that at least the members of the public have got better access to, and it encourages members of the public to engage in that democratic process. So yeah, we will look to enhance the facilities in the conference room so that we are able to do that.
Yes, thank you, Mel. We discussed that as well because, well, I've been saying ever since we moved into that parish office, the IT is just simply not good enough for meetings and showing plans and all the rest of it. And we need to move with the times. So I think live streaming is really helpful for us. So that's my intention, pending the legislation, of course. But then if Parliament's not back, I fail to see why we should be back. So pending that legislation check, we will be continuing online until September, but it will come to the Parish Council for a decision about how we move forward and how we hold meetings. I think it would be very sad to lose face-to-face meetings entirely. It's always been a very good thing that people can just come along on the night and have their say. Now, I know they can do that on Zoom, but the fact that it's being live streamed and things does tend to put some people off. They don't want to be broadcasting to the nation, or worse, having a meeting like that parish council up north that went terribly wrong and people were implicated with all sorts of stuff. And, you know, so I think Zoom in itself can be a barrier. So I wouldn't want to lose face-to-face entirely, but I can't see why a lot of our meetings can't be held online like this, because we can be anywhere to have these meetings now, which will only improve attendance.
Wonderful.
So yeah, thank you for raising that one, Michelle. Anything anyone else wants to say on that matter? Phil.
Thank you, Chairman. It may be just me, but as far as the quorum comments are concerned, I don't understand it. I mean, does it mean the auditor was wrong? The response says, well, the response seems to say, yes, you were wrong, auditor. Can you explain what that was? And while I'm unmuted, can I also ask about the bank reconciliation as far as members are concerned? Seems to me that's going to be a bit of a nettle to cast for members somewhere. I don't know what the policy is or how we're going to do it, but it seems to me that could be, for members, a bit of an issue. So perhaps a short explanation about quorum and where we're going to go on the members' bank reconciliation, please.
Okay, well, if I can talk about Cora, this is not this year that it refers to, it's last year. So yes, it is wrong for this year because we haven't had these inchoate meetings, but this refers to the last financial year and we're almost at the end of this financial year. So it actually goes back a very long way. So she was right at the time, but if you took it for being now, it's absolutely wrong because we're not having those meetings. And on bank reconciliation, I'm going to leave that to Mel or Joe to talk about.
I'll allow Joe to answer this one, Chairman, for me.
Yes, I know. I can see what she's saying. That she wants members to take it in rotation to check the bank. Helen, I know you signed the bank recs at the end of each meeting, and she's suggesting that a couple of members look at this in turn. With meetings being virtual, it does make that harder. I agree with what Philip's saying. It does make that very, very difficult, and it might be something that I mentioned to Eleanor today about what she wants us to do going forwards with where we're not really seeing each other, how we can do that. Because yeah, I think it's easier perhaps when we were all in the office, and I know Hugh came in a couple of times and would often check things, but I think Eleanor wanted to see that a little bit more. So that's something that, yeah, I think we could easily do, but it's quite difficult when we're only seeing each other virtually at the moment. So it's something I will raise with her.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that internal audit plan then, before we move to our work programme? Okay, so our work programme then, which is F. Any comments on that?
Just for members to note, Chairman, unless they've got any additional items that they would like to put on the work programme.
Anything we feel that should be added? This is a committee that's really run by routine, isn't it? So everything just sort of happens automatically. Okay, thank you very much. Well, members of the public, if you're watching this, thank you very much. We're actually going to go into private session now. And the reason for that is we're going to discuss performance appraisals of our staff and have a staffing update. And these are confidential matters that are not broadcast. So thank you very much for joining us. Please feel free to join us at any meeting you like. Details are always on our website. And thank you very much. I'm now going to say that under section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act of 1960, the public and press should be excluded from this meeting for those following items of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information which would be prejudicial to the public interest as it's a confidential nature, and those are our staffing matters. So that's my proposal. Is there a seconder, please?